need to buy yourself a gun. What? A gun? What? Like a handgun for personal protection. In case somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a camp? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun?
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. 10-footed cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. You gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You gotta drag them through the streets.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to PrimerTime. My name is Michael.
Hey, and I'm Dan. How you doing, Michael?
Dan, what's the word? How you been?
I've been fine. We also have Hal with us tonight. How you doing, Hal?
I'm doing fine.
Hal, good to hear you tonight.
Our resident reloading specialist, Hal. He can tell you a lot of stuff. He knows a lot of information about firearms. So if you can probably personally message Hal, and he'll tell you anything you want to know about reloading. Michael, you went to a gun show this weekend. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, Dan, I went to a pretty small show in a small little town. It's between two bigger towns. Don't really want to say where it was, but small show. It was in the city's convention center, which also had a restaurant in it, and it was about 60 tables. Of those 60 tables, there was probably 25 vendors. Of those 25 vendors, maybe 13 or 14 of them were selling firearms. The prices were outrageous. And I think the ratio of what we like to call swap meet items and flea market items for firearms, and not just firearms, but firearms parts and magazines and stocks and slings and things like that, was appallingly high. There was an awful lot of T-shirts and Avon salesmen and Tupperware and stuff like that.
So it was a junk sale. That's what I call those junk sales.
Yeah, there was a lot of junk. There wasn't anything that was really good quality. There was one guy who had brand new stuff, and actually there were a few tables with brand new stuff, but they were outrageously priced. Some examples I could give of the horrible pricing would have been a Cobra Derringer, which normally retails for about $149. Those were going from $209 and all the way up to $259. Jimenez Arms pistols. People may not be aware of the name Jimenez, but it goes by. They've been known by Jennings and Brico. They're people commonly refer to them as Saturday night specials. They're not especially a high quality pistol, but it is a functional pistol, and some people on a budget do choose those. Those are usually up to about $200, and those were going near $300. A lot of the used weapons were of dubious quality and quite expensive, and I wasn't really happy. The one that stands out in my head, Dan, you know I like the Browning high powers, and I'm pretty much familiar with all the high power clones and iterations of that pistol. Well, there was a guy there who had a FM, which stands for Fabrica Militar, and just a little aside, it's an off-license pistol, made in Argentina, so it's not a Fabrique Nationale. Well, that pistol in excellent condition normally retails for $300, and this guy was asking $750 and trying to actually pass it off as a Fabrique Nationale. And when I told him it was Argentinian Fabrica Militar, he wasn't happy with me and took the pistol out of my hands and kind of turned his back on me and walked away.
Typical, and he was wanting twice the price for what the gun was worth.
Absolutely. Twice the price, and it wasn't necessarily in the greatest condition. So that kind of just brings to mind, I mean, maybe right now, with the situation and having the greatest gun salesman in the world as our president, the gun shows may not be the best place to find a deal right now. And it pains me to say that because I enjoy going to them. I enjoy visiting them, and I enjoy working at them. It pains me to say that there's a lot of, just blatant thievery going on at these things. And, scalpers. And I mean, I think you'll find that in any time that there's any kind of crisis, somebody's always going to be there looking to make a buck. But, that being said, people still need to buy a weapon or would like to buy a pistol or a new rifle or a new shotgun. And, they may not be willing to go and pay the markup that, a new weapon has, and they may be not willing to straight up do the paperwork. They don't want to do the paperwork. And that's acceptable in my eyes. So there is the used gun market, the face-to-face personal sale. And, I'd like to kind of talk about that. Have you guys ever been involved in one of those?
I've been involved in several of them, Michael. I know what you're talking about. That's the good kind, and you can find several different gun boards listing firearms for sale, all over the internet. Just about every state has their own firearms board now, don't they? Where people list firearms for sale within the states.
One of the ones I look at, for me, living in Texas, it's TexasGunTrader.com. I'm sure there's probably a Tennessee Gun Trader or a Tennessee.
There is. Every state's got one, but when you buy one through there, it's got to go to a gun shop for you to go pick it up.
Well, what I'm talking about, the Texas Gun Trader is people putting up a classified ad, and they've got whatever it is, and they'll list their phone number, and then if they're in your area.
Oh, so you go meet them, and it's a private sale.
Exactly. It's a marketplace for private sales.
Yeah. See, if they ship it across state lines, though, that's out the door.
We're getting into something different there. Yeah. Yep. But if you wanted to buy something local to your area, this is an option. But this being an option also comes with some awareness that you have to have, situational awareness, and you have to know what you're looking for.
The other thing is you want to make sure that, which is very difficult for you to do, is make sure the gun's not stolen.
That is very difficult to do because, we as civilians don't have any kind of access to the NCIS check, and as we know, the police aren't our friends. So if you call the police and ask for
they'll
a
come
check
right on out and arrest you and take the gun.
Well, they'll come out and arrest you, take the gun, or they won't help you until you show up at the police department with the weapon, so they can make sure that they get.
Then they'll give you top-notch service. Then
That's right. So this is things that we have to discuss. Well, number one, how do you figure out whether or not you're getting a good pistol? And when we're talking about pistols, usually we're talking about revolvers or a semi-automatic pistol. What are some of the things that you would say look for in a good used revolver?
Does it look new is one of my criteria, Michael.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but it has to.
The other thing I reach with a revolver, one of the first things I do if I'm looking at it, just like he says, if it's one somebody's taken care of, it ought to look new. But if you pick it up and it don't look new and it doesn't look like it's been taken care of, you grab a hold of the cylinder, you can rock it back and forth a little bit. Teeny bit, that's one thing. Little bit, that's way too much.
That's right. We're looking at general appearance. A python. exactly.
No, I said a tight gun.
A tight gun.
Oh, that's my wet dream.
Well, apparently it is, because used, those are retailing at a minimum of $1,500.
Doubt about it.
So we're looking for tightness to fit. We're looking for the general appearance, for what type of wear marks it has. So the wear marks that a pistol can have, whether it is a revolver or a semi-automatic, can be very indicative of its use. If it's a blued revolver and most of the wear is on the, say at the muzzle and the area of the cylinder that protrudes, that may have been a police officer's weapon, or even better, a prison guard's weapon, or a private security officer's weapon at one point, and it was never fired. Or it was fired very little, and most of its use was being carried.
Yep.
I think that's an acceptable amount of wear.
It sure is, Michael, and you can tell by looking in the barrel with a bore sight, seeing how the rifling is in the barrel. It looks like it's in great shape. You can tell a gun that's been abused, basically.
We'll look at
and how smooth it operates.
That's right. I've not really had many opportunities to actually fire a weapon before I've bought it. Usually it's been in a situation where there is no to discharge it. Some people have now. I've actually sold a weapon where I've given a man an opportunity to. He didn't actually fire a live bullet. He fired a primed case to make sure that the hammer fell.
Yeah, I bought many guns sight unseen off of Gun Broker before, Michael, that just going on photos alone. And photos sell guns on Gun Broker when you're trying to sell a firearm, but and I've never gotten a bum deal before. I guess I'm lucky or something, but every firearm I've ever bought off the internet or met someone and bought, when I inspected the firearms, they were great.
Well, and this is a part of doing your homework for the job. This is something that you're not necessarily brand new to, Dan, and you've had plenty of time to go over this. So we know what to look for in your purchases. I've done it. I don't know about you guys, but I've met people that I've seen their ad, and there was a phone number or an email somehow, and we've decided to meet either in town or somewhere between us. How do you guys usually handle that?
I personally ask them, where would you like to meet? Let's meet somewhere halfway, and let them choose the spot. And of course, I go armed. And I fill out the person before I even get out of the car. I check them out and check their demeanor, and just, you can generally tell if it's a classy person or not. If it's a classy person, I have no problem with jumping right out of the car and shaking their hand and speaking with them, talking with them. And I always chat with them a little bit before I even ask about the firearm I'm about to purchase or whatever.
Right. Do you take people with you? I usually take a friend of mine with me. There's two guys I can usually rely on to go with me that I know have a good situational awareness and an operating knowledge of firearms. And it's nice to have a second eye to look at the item you're going to purchase or sell, but it's really nice to have that backup.
I would agree with you, Michael. I don't normally, but it's not a bad idea at all.
I don't either. I've bought guns off individuals before. The last guns I bought was at a garage sale. The old guy had it. Nice, an old man, old woman. It's very good people. I'll be honest with you. Most of the people that I've met buying guns have been real nice people.
Absolutely.
But I'm not. This isn't the back of Julio's Nova either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's something that I do take into account. Maybe this is my own personal prejudices or something, but I'll tell you what. Either side of the table at a gun show, I won't deal with a guy with a flat brimmed hat.
or What about gang tattoos?
Nope. If I've got say a Browning High Power or a Beretta 92 on the table and, comes up and, yo, dog, how much for this Glock Fode? $2,500 special for you, sir.
Damn. See, my reply would be completely different. My reply to him, I had a guy do that out of the shop we had. Yo, dog. I looked at him and I said, you talking to me? Yeah. I said, first off, I'm not a dog. So you got me mixed up with somebody. And he looked at me like I was from outer space.
Yeah, you violated his
moment.
You violated his thinking principles. Right
yeah,
there.
well, I made him think. I don't think he knew how to do it.
The principles of thinking for him were not do it. So I mean, we've got to size up the people that we deal with, and that's the physical look. Unfortunately, is probably 85 to 90% of it.
Yeah.
If it depends on if they want to make a trade with you. I've made trades before. You have to figure your value and the value of what you're getting, and also compare the conditions of the weapons. This there's a lot to go into on this.
Yeah, most people, just like unless they're experienced with firearms. I mean, if my first thing, if somebody was, I've done this with several friends. They're going to buy a weapon. They'll take me with them, not for protection, to tell them if the gun's any good or not. And if you don't know, your best bet would try to be to find somebody that did know a little bit something about a gun and have them go with you, because you if not, you're open. You could easily be taken.
Absolutely, Hal. That's very recommended. If you know very little, always take someone that knows something about firearms. Michael, a lot of my private sales have happened at gun shows, of course, out in the parking lot, people selling firearms out of their trunks. And I don't know, it's sort of strange the way that happens in Tennessee is, you just sort of start talking to some guys that are sitting around and they have like one or two firearms in boxes for sale, and you say, I'm sort of like looking for ponies, something with a pony on it. You got any Colts or something like that? And sure enough, one of those guys will say, well, I've got some out in the trunk of my car. If you want to walk out to the trunk. And I said, sure, let's go, and that's where I've got my best deals before and purchased most of my firearms is out of the trunks of people's cars after just talking with them a little bit.
Now, see, the whole parking lot aspect of this gun show thing doesn't happen here. There's a lot of face-to-face sales inside the show, people who have come in, but there's not really that kind of going on in the parking lot. I don't know why that would be.
So is that, so you can't, there's not people selling them out of their trunks at gun shows?
No,
yes,
but
there is.
Well, not at ours. I've
here in Tampa, I see them when the Suncoast Gun Show. There's people walking around out in the parking lot with their guns for sale.
Yeah, and then they'll have a trunk load of them. But so that's not legal in Texas. Is that what you're saying, Michael?
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that it's not legal. I'm just saying that I don't see that happening here.
Really?
Yeah,
you're seeing it here.
There's more sales, like say through Craigslist. I know that sales through Craigslist are prohibited. Whatever, they still occur. You can look at Craigslist in my area at any time, and on any given day, you'll see 2 to 3 rifles, maybe a pistol on there for sale.
Before it gets whacked off of there, huh? They probably sell them before it gets whacked off too. If they put it down.
Probably, they probably get. Yeah, they move fairly quickly. With the local board we look at in my area, the more popular one in my area, the Texas Gun Trader. Usually it's broken down by areas, or you can, search by whatever you're actually looking for. And, it gives you personal contact information. And, that can be a good way to get something. I've dealt with that and I'm fairly happy with that system.
Yeah. Once a deal pops up on the board like that, it doesn't last long. So you got to make your decision and jump on it one way or another.
That's right.
Call them and tell them you'll take it. depending on condition, etc. As soon as you see the gun, firearm, whatever, you got to be Johnny on the spot to find those really good deals, and that's and you can find some really good deals.
There's a lot of factors in finding those good deals. Just because this pistol may be, or this rifle or shotgun may be $100 less than you can find it anywhere else because it's had 50, 60 rounds through it, that may be offset by the fact that it's going to cost you $150 round trip and gas to get there.
Well, let's hope not.
Well, we're in a much bigger state, so.
Well, that's
yeah,
true.
but you know what? Even if it does, if you can go there and spend the $150 for gas and go get yourself a shotgun or any kind of gun that's been shot 60 times, I'm for the road trip.
Yeah, if you get the price is right, it's worth it, I would imagine.
It's also it's not registered. I think that's the best part right there in my book. Oh, that's the part that counts. That's the part. I'm not a criminal by no stretch of the imagination, but when I buy a gun, I want to buy it person to person, and I want it unregistered. I don't want to go to no damn gun shop where my name's going to be registered that I got such and such and this and that. No, not anymore. Back in the 60s or 70s, I wouldn't have thought much about it. But this isn't the 60s and 70s.
No. I'm fully aware that the government keeps the information that they're not supposed to be keeping.
No, they're willing to break down doors to get it.
That's right. Aries Armor. And that's something that we can bring around. Aries Armor has, they're a purveyor of parts, and they make 80% frames and 80% receivers. And if people aren't aware what an 80% receiver or frame is a frame that's not fully machined out. There's still some drilling work to be done. There's a little bit of milling work to be done. And then it actually becomes a usable receiver. It's usually not super intensive work. Somebody could probably do it in, I'd say probably about 4 or 5 hours if they were fairly, knew which end of the wrench turned. But they're not considered firearms. And they were rated.
The 80% receivers?
That's right.
Talking about, Michael?
That's right. The 80% receivers from Aries Firearms. And, you know a little bit about that, right?
Yeah. If you know someone that's a master machinist, you got a good friend, let me tell you.
That's right. Cause you can turn them out. But even people are doing it with a drill press at home. And I've actually seen videos where people are actually doing it with a hand drill. If
you're good enough, skilled enough with hand tools, you can do it yourself. Exactly. That's exactly right. You can do a lot of that stuff on your own. You can buy most of the parts kits and build you a rifle from parts kits. It's a lot less, and it's more inexpensive than going out and buying a complete rifle by a long shot.
That's right. Well, they had made up a special 80% receiver out of polymer. And polymer, of course, being easier to work than aluminum or a casting. And they had actually made the areas you were supposed to drill and machine out a completely different color. And somehow the ATF decided that wasn't allowed. And they came in and they didn't actually take the receivers, but what they took was the customer list. And they took about 5,000 names. And these are people who bought these items, and they're actually they're not considered a firearm. They're not a numbered receiver. And it's all this scare over the ghost guns and 3D printed weapons and the fear of control, the fear of the loss of control.
So what are you doing with this list is what I want to know.
Well, I'd like to know what the ATF's doing with that list too, but they don't have a really good track record of when they've got lists and what they do with them.
Guys, come on! It's a Christmas card list. Don't you know they're
That's
going
right.
to send Christmas cards out to these people? Get a grip.
But that just Back for a second about the buying the firearms and the personal safety, Michael. That's we were talking earlier about that, and you brought up some really good points about that. About checking people out and going armed, and I like your idea of taking someone else. I don't really have anybody handy that I can pick up and take with me to go meet someone, but I'm confident in myself, so I don't know.
Well, I think everybody's got to apprise their own situation and find what works for them.
It's just it's a good way of buying a firearm and getting a relatively inexpensive firearm too. It's a good way just to meet someone off of a board. They leave their phone number, you call them, fill them out on the phone and say, I'll meet you, where would you like to meet?
Yeah, it would be a good way. That makes perfect sense.
And if they've got what you're looking for, an inexpensive shotgun for your first home personal defense weapon, that's I don't know what to tell people about that. What do you suggest, Michael?
Well, I think everybody's need for a self-defense weapon kind of varies on their situation. Somebody who lives in a more rural area, if your nearest neighbor is 4 miles away, I don't think you have as much need for a pistol as you would, say, something more like a rifle, a medium caliber rifle. Whereas somebody who lives in a high-rise apartment, with 4,000 residents in it, they may have better need for a small pistol than a shotgun.
Yeah, I think inexperienced with firearms people need a shotgun, I believe, also, Michael.
Well, I really think people who are inexperienced with firearms need to get out there and actually learn. If they're interested in this,
yes,
they need to get some experience.
Exactly.
What's the use of having it if you don't know what to do with it? If you just buy it, that don't make you Wyatt Earp. You need to shoot it. That's the information of the night, Michael, right there. If you've got a gun and you've never had a gun, you just go buy a gun. The first thing you need to do with that gun is learn how to use it, learn how to clean it, learn how to take care of it. But most of all, learn how to shoot it and be safe with it. Because it isn't worth a damn to you. You might as well throw a rock.
That's my point, Hal.
Yep, that's good.
That's why I suggest a shotgun, because pistols are difficult to shoot. They're not as easy as the movies pretend them to be to shoot.
Oh, heck no, they're not. But I'll tell you what, inside of a room, they're not that hard either.
But still, even inside of a room, I would much rather have someone pull, one of my loved ones with a shotgun to protect themselves than any other.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, with the advent of the laser sights, that's changed things around a lot too. If you have a person that's not used to shooting a gun, you can buy a pistol with a laser sight on it. And I mean,
put the dot on the chest and pull the trigger.
It's that simple.
And a lot of firearms are now coming with a factory sight.
You better
with a factory laser sight.
They sure as hell do.
Yeah,
I know that Ruger's
and those
putting
things
them.
work too. I mean, they really. That's the better ones cost a little bit of money, but my God, you talk about something that works every time. That thing, it ain't going to fail.
It also works as a deterrent. You don't even have to fire a shot with it.
If you put that dot on somebody's chest, I guarantee you they're going to stop like you shot them. And if they don't, well, then pull the trigger and then they stop for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I have to agree 100%. But the problem with the lasers, it starts getting into some price. Well, a price point that some people may not be comfortable with.
That's true.
Because even an add-on laser, if you've got a rail or something underneath your pistol or underneath your shotgun or your rifle, or a rail on top, or however you're going to mount that laser, if it's an aftermarket laser that didn't come supplied with it, it's going to cost you a fair bit of money. And then there's also going to be something that people have to consider. I don't consider it a problem because I like to shoot, but once you mount that on there, you're going to have to figure out exactly how to zero that.
Plus you have holster problems also.
That's right.
But I thought we were talking about home protection in the home.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Even some of those add-on lasers, they're not accurate, you still have to. Once you have it mounted on there, you still have to.
Oh
figure
yeah,
out
well, you got to do the same thing with a scope or anything else. But I mean,
right.
that's you just don't bolt it on there and it's perfect. No, of course not.
Not everybody's aware of that because a lot of the new factory pistols are coming with that laser, already mounted on, and it's already zeroed out to 25 yards or whatever.
Right. But
And
when you buy
I think
when you buy that laser, all that information is going to be in the box to tell you what you need to do with it. And if you don't, you have to take it to a gunsmith and have somebody bore sight it and take it to a range and shoot it. Once you get it to the range, then you can dial it in. But I'm still saying, you talk about, it's the cost, they might not be comfortable. Let me tell you something. If it comes to saving your life, then you need to, if you're not comfortable with it, you need to reassess your priorities and get comfortable with it. You don't have the money to buy a good sight or to buy a good weapon, but you got money to buy beer and cigarettes. See, that's
exactly.
It's all in where your
priorities.
If your priorities are, if the people that are listening, their priorities aren't for what I'm talking about right here. If their beer and cigarettes is more important to them than being able to protect themselves, their family, and their life, then what's the use of even talking? I mean, truth is truth, and fiction is fiction.
Well, we've got to look at that in other ways too. Think about Christmas time. Many people have no problem spending $500 on a video game system and a video game for their child, but they shudder at the thought of spending $200 on a .22 rifle and $50 worth of ammo and 2 hours of time on the weekend.
You're right, Michael. And that gets us to a point that I'd like to talk about tonight is about add-on accessories. How can you help a firearm? And you're talking about these lasers, and I've got a couple of my wheel guns. I put laser grips on them, the Crimson Trace laser grips on them. They're kind of pricey, but and they have an up and down adjustment and a left right adjustment on those things. It's got to use the smallest Allen wrench I've ever seen in my life. There's these tiny holes for the adjustment on that laser to dial it in. And I dial mine in at about 10 yards.
Yeah, they adjust like a scope.
Yeah, exactly. You just you actually turn that thing with a small little tiny Allen wrench. It's smaller than a pencil wedge, very small Allen wrench.
Well, look at how small the little screws are that go into your cell phone.
But you would tell me some things to improve a firearm you might have, like if you have trouble with the sights, and you say,
oh yeah, when you get a little bit older, your sight isn't what it used to be, and I literally had cataracts. I would be completely blind, but I thanks to the VA, they put lenses in my eyes, and when they put the lenses in, I went from being blind in my right eye to when I went out there to get my lenses, I asked the guy to give me a lens that I could see through a scope with. And he said, a scope? And I said, yeah. I said, I shoot a lot. And he said, I know just what you need. He said, but look, he said, you're not going to be able to see close. He said, after 3 or 4 feet, you'll have your vision will be back. And I said, that's what I want. So he did, and my goodness, it was mind-boggling. I went from not being able to see to being able to see. And 2 years later, my other eye went bad. And so when I went in, they were going to put a closer one. I said, nope. I said, I want the same lens in both my eyes. So they put the same lens in both my eyes, and I could, 24 hours after they did the operation on me, I could read 4 of the letters out of 6 on the 2015 line. So I definitely have my sight back. But the first 3 feet I don't see so well. So what I did is I took my weapons that I had iron sights on, and I took a toothpick, and I took white enamel, and I dipped the pointed toothpick down, and I took, where you're looking down the sight in the back, there's a little V. I put a dot on both sides of that V, and then I went down to the end of the gun, and I put a white dot that I could see looking down the barrel, and all I do is line those 3 dots up, and I shoot fine with it. But they've got all kind of sights that you can buy for the newer guns that fit on there, and they're you can get green ones, you can get red ones, you can get orange ones.
You talk about the glow sights.
The glow sights, man, those things work so good, it's not even funny. My Ruger 22 target pistol has those on it.
The glow sights, they bother me in the fact that the rear side is blurry to me. They're so bright and glow so
Yeah, but I
much.
can still see better than that. I can see without them.
I like your idea.
I see fine with those. I can see real good with those.
I like your idea of the toothpick as a paintbrush, putting the dots on there. Yeah, that sounds like a perfect paintbrush.
Yeah, and you can put just a small dot. You don't need much. Just make sure you wipe it off with alcohol or something first, so the glue will bind.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what. This brings up an interesting scenario. Over the weekend when we went to that show, my friend and I, he actually had done a face-to-face purchase, and he bought a Browning High Power, and I happen to like those, and I know a little bit about him. And so he brought me along, and you know, we looked at this. Well, this pistol had Trijicon sights in the back, and people may not be aware, but Trijicon sights are a little radioluminescent sight, and they
top of the line torque type.
Exactly.
Sights.
Yeah, they're about $120 for the set, and it had them on the front and on the rear, but the rear sight going in was pretty boogered up, and looked like it had been filed or ground down to put it in there. So made me think that it wasn't actually designed for a Browning High Power. It may have been designed for a 1911. So that's something that you may have to be aware of, is that people may add on some of these nifty items that go, and they're not installed correctly.
Yeah, that just comes from knowledge there, Michael. That's where it would help for someone to take an experienced person with firearms with them when they purchase one, if they're not experienced with them.
And something I would kind of shy away from is something that is over-accessorized. I don't see it much in pistols. You see it a lot in shotguns and rifles, and it's got every plastic bit that you could possibly bolt onto it. I have a suspicion about those.
Now, the another firearm improvement always, of course, is, Michael, one of your favorites is the sling and the holster, correct?
I would suggest that if before anybody put anything extra on their weapon, that the first two purchases that they make are extra magazines and a sling or a holster. That's what I would say that you need for your weapon.
One of my favorite add-ons is for people who love Glocks. I happen to be one of those people. I didn't used to like them, but I like them now. But an accessory you can buy is a 2.5 pound trigger, and it's a trigger connector that makes your trigger pull 2.5 pounds instead of the normal 5.5 pound Glock trigger pull. And it really improves your accuracy when you don't have to pull that trigger as hard to straight back. You know, you're just concentrating on your target, and that is a great accessory to purchase for anyone who owns a Glock firearm. It's just a 2.5 pound trigger. And of course the Crimson Trace laser grips. That's the best accessory in the world for a revolver.
Now, with the 2.5 pound trigger for a Glock, is that something you have to take it to a gunsmith, or is that something that you could install yourself? I know that a Glock, the Glock Armorer's tool is basically, it's a keyring punch.
It's a punch. That's all you need. All you need is a punch of some sort. A nail will work. So you have three posts, I guess, you punch out. And the Glock, when you take the slide off the top of it, what you have left is the trigger assembly, basically. And that trigger assembly pops right out of the gun once you remove those pins. So you pop the pins out and pop that thing up, and you can replace the trigger connector is simply a bar that is connected. When you start pulling the trigger, it moves at a certain force and changes the angle. It's hard to describe on set to show you, basically, but anyway, what it does is reduces the weight of the trigger pull. And, you know, from 5.5.
So that is somebody who's reasonably competent. They could install that themselves.
Yes, anyone can do it. You can probably find a YouTube video showing you how to do it, and anyone competent with firearms should be able to do that trigger connector change out in about 5 minutes or less, and have the firearm ready to go again, have the Glock ready to shoot again.
You know, you can go, you say use a nail to drive it out. I mean, I about cringed when you said that.
Well, not a sharp
It
nail.
would work, but you can go to Harbor Freight and buy a cheap set of brass punches or a cheap set of regular punches. And the other thing is, when you're using the screws on a gun, a lot of the guns now have the little Allen wrench you was talking about. A lot of the newer guns are all put together with little teeny torque drivers. I've noticed a lot of this stuff, they got torque drivers, and you can get those fairly inexpensive too. But the screwdrivers that you would use on a gun are not like a regular screwdriver that you'd use on a car or around the house. The blade on it's thinner. And the easiest way to butch up a gun is to use the wrong screwdriver on it. I
agree. There's something
sick when I see that.
There's nothing uglier than boogered up screws on.
Isn't that horrible, man? I mean, that really gets, that's one of my little, that hammers on me, man. I don't like that.
I agree with you. I bought a Colt Mustang pocket light that I carried for years, and the screws were boogered up on it. There's nothing I could do about it, of course, but that was another one I bought out of the back of someone's trunk.
That's something that we also have to be aware of when you're looking at a used weapon. Is sometimes it may not have that appearance that we're looking for. That's brand new in the box, and it may have been what people like to call bubbed. And a bubbed weapon can be many things to many different people. More commonly, it's a military rifle that's been an older military bolt action that's been sort of sporterized at home. But you see it to where you got a lot of the kitchen gunsmithing going on.
Kitchen gunsmithing.
There's some I think that the kitchen gunsmithing is fairly accurate because like Cracker was saying, there's some people out there who must be using butter knives for screwdrivers.
Yep, seen that done too.
Which, that's a good point. This is a good point to bring up the PrimerTime 4 rules of gun safety. Michael, you know what those are, of course.
Absolutely, Dan.
The first one is, you always treat every firearm as if it's loaded. Assume it's loaded, and you personally check and clear that firearm yourself.
I got to say that the second rule is, keep that muzzle direction in mind. Don't point that muzzle at anything you don't want it to destroy.
Above all, don't point it at me.
Muzzle awareness. You always got to be aware of where that firearm's pointed. The third one is know your target and what's around your target, what's behind your target, because you're not going to always hit your target. And the fourth one, my favorite of all, Michael.
Dan, it's probably the most important one because nothing happens without it. Ladies and gentlemen, keep your booger hook off the bang switch. Please keep your finger out of the trigger guard area until you are ready to fire the weapon. If you don't know what to do with that finger, point it along the side of the frame of the weapon, of the receiver. Keep the finger outside the trigger guard. Don't become a quotable statistic, please.
Keep your finger out of it if it don't belong to you.
That's pretty much it.
There's no such thing as an accidental discharge.
No, they're all negligence, and the gun does not go off unless you've got the Nambu, the Japanese Nambu from World War II, and there's not a lot of those floating around in active use, so there's really no excuse.
The Nambu, so the Nambu actually goes off all by itself. Is that correct?
The Nambu had an exposed sear on the side, and if there was pressure placed on that sear, it would fire it.
Oh, okay. So if there was pressure placed on it, so it's actually just sitting on a table, it wouldn't fire itself.
It could.
Oh, it could.
There had been cases of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's strange. That's sort of like that revolver double tap, and I couldn't understand how that could happen until Eddie explained it and showed us on the recoil of that thing.
That was pretty crazy. That guy was lucky he didn't. He's lucky anything occurs for him from that point forward.
That is wild. So there is actually a gun that can lay there on the table and actually shoot you. Possibly,
yeah, it was
shoot you.
Nambu, which was a semi-automatic pistol that the Japanese used during World War II. And this year, I believe it was on the right side of the left side of the weapon. It was exposed a little bit further, and a slight pressure on it would discharge it. So that's now one of the more common pistols. It's actually chambered in 8mm, and there's not a lot of that floating around. So
a short 8mm bullet, is that what it uses? It's not a rifle cartridge 8mm.
No. Yeah, it's a pistol 8mm.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with that caliber or the gun.
I've seen them at shows. They're usually quite expensive, and for me, far too expensive for something you'll never ever shoot.
If it's something I'll never ever shoot, I don't even need to look at it.
That's kind of the way I see it. I mean, there's nice stuff that you like to look at for the historical perspective, but like at this show that I went to over the weekend, there's a guy, he had a Winchester rifle in 25 rimfire. And actually it was Winchester 25 rimfire is what it was the cartridge. I've never
come up for that.
25 rimfire. I've never heard of a 25 rimfire.
Yeah. And it wasn't just 25 rimfire, it was Winchester 25 rimfire, because I believe there was a different 25 rimfire at the time. But he wanted $6,700 for the rifle, and that's just far too much for me for something that you'll never ever find any kind of ammunition for.
Yeah, that's just something you absolutely have to have for your collection.
And I thought it was kind of an odd weapon to have at this show that had such a poor selection. I mean, I'm still kind of just disturbed by what they were passing off at that show and using their name as, hey, this is a gun show, and this is where people from the community come to deal with firearms and accessories and things like that. And they were passing off such crap. I mean, they might as well have been a circus that sets up in the grocery store parking lot or something.
How about the ammo situation? What was ammo selling for?
Oh. All right. Everybody out there, please take a seat, because this is painful.
We're talking 22 long rifle ammo, correct?
All right, 22 long rifle ammo. Well, let's go with the gold standard, the CCI Stinger. CCI Stinger was $20 a box.
For 50 rounds.
For a 50-round box, it's $20.
40 cents a round.
40 cents a round.
223 goes for that right now, I think.
Those rounds have been blessed by a priest, though. You don't understand.
They must have been, because I said, holy Jesus, when I saw the price on those things.
What about a brick of 500? What were they going for?
I actually didn't see anybody who had a brick. Winchester Wildcats in a 50-round box, it's just a lead round nose bullet. It's one of the
plinking bullet.
It's a plinking bullet for a 22. It's a cheap bullet. Those were going for $15 a box. Those used to go for $2 a box.
$15 for 50 or 100?
For 50. And at $2 a box, we thought that was pricey. So now they're
30 cents a round.
Yeah.
So I was correct when I said we might as well invest in 10 cents a round 22 long rifle ammo now.
That's what it's looking like.
If you can find it for 10 cents a round, go ahead and buy it in bulk. That's all there is to it. I mean, I don't see it coming back now. Michael, I've been in this game a long time, and usually ammo comes back, and most of the calibers have come back except for 22 long rifle. 22 long rifle.
Well, they're rare.
I'm telling you, they're still keeping it off the shelves.
I'm thinking it may be the lack of 22 on the shelves. Maybe there's just not enough profit per round.
You think?
That gotta be what it is.
That is incredible. It really is.
But I was still in shock over other prices of ammunition. 9mm, a box of 50 of it was Monarch, which is sold at Academy. So somebody, and it's only sold through Academy. So this is somebody who went to the big box store and bought it and then took it to the gun show to sell it. That was selling for $11.99 a box and is still selling for $11.99 a box at the big box store, but they were selling it at the show for $30
For a 50-round box?
for a 50-round box.
Well, you gotta make a little profit for carrying that heavy box, you know.
That's right. I mean,
It sounds like a Snap-on truck.
Oh, it was seriously, it disgusted me. The outright brutal in your face of the whole robbery that was going on there. There wasn't even a pretense of it being, a gun show or a place for a bargain or a place for a deal. It was more like you paid your $5, got your hand stamped, and then you were handed a card that said spread your cheeks and here's some lube. Welcome to the show.
By the way, there's nothing you want to look at in here.
Yeah, there really wasn't. I mean, some of the things just disgusted me.
So a total waste of time. How far did you have to drive to go to this gun show?
It was about 80 miles from my house.
Oh, wow. 80 miles one way.
Yeah, but it also, you know, and this is something that we've always felt very strongly about, all of us, that firearms are not only something that we like to enjoy the actual item and the shooting of the item, but it also brings a camaraderie about you. It's something you experience with your friends, and it's bonding with your family and your loved ones. And well, you know, my friend and I we went and bought the high power that he got in the morning, and then we went to the show from there, and you know, got to have lunch in a different town, and
oh, that's good. That's good.
You know, good conversation the whole way.
When I go to the Suncoast Gun Show here, I used to go out there and buy reloading stuff. Well, lately that's been kind of sparse, but it is starting to come back a little bit. I go there to look at, they've got a lot of the old stuff. It's like walking through a freaking museum in some of the places, but it's a big gun show. They have it here 2 or 3 times a year. And, it's interesting. It's very interesting to go to, but just like what you're saying, you go out there and you look at the price on, you know, you've been going out there for year after year after year. You go out there and you look at this stuff now and you go, my God, I know what these people paid for this. And it's like they're wanting to just clean your clock. I thank God I bought all the stuff I needed a long time ago, because when I go, it gets so disgusting.
I know how I feel the same way.
I was fairly disgusted because, aside from all the other stuff that I saw, but we've heard in the recent weeks the rumors of the blocking of the Russian and the Ukrainian ammo coming in. There's been no evidence of that, and even with this executive order that Obama signed, there's been no restriction on it. There was actually even a conference with the representatives of Wolf Ammo that said that they were not delaying any kind of production. There was no delay on shipments or impediment of the shipments. So this is all just internet rumor going around. Well, these internet rumors have taken hold because now a box of 20 of 7.62 by 39, which should have been some of the cheapest ammunition, was going for $25 a box. So over $1 a round for steel-cased, military-grade Russian ammo.
Wow. AK rounds for over $1 a round now?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to start selling some I have.
I heard the guy that is the CEO of Hornady come on a newscast. It was a short one. But he was saying they're putting out ammo now. He said they're turning out ammo that's popular right now: 9mm, 308s, 45, stuff like that. 223s. He said they're putting them out. He said they put on extra crews, run 24/7, and they're putting out as much ammo as they can possibly produce. And you know, if I listened to what he said, and I believe him. But you know what I see, are people really buying up that ammo that quick, or is there less ammo for them to buy up? Where is that ammo going? Because if all those ammo manufacturers are putting out as much ammo as they're putting out, and they're not selling to the government like what we think they did,
there should be trucks. There should be masses of trucks on the highway.
What I see happening and what I hear isn't matching up for me.
That's kind of the way I see it. There should be masses of trucks full of ammunition on the highway if that's the way it works.
Absolutely. So where are they? You know, so who's fooling who here?
Well, it's the same thing with the 22 long rifle. Where is it?
Where is it? Where is it?
Even though we do have some Hulksters getting some in that work at a outlet that gets some occasionally, there's still there's not that much around. You know, even at that.
That used to be like going down and buying a Coke. You know, you could go anywhere. The hardware stores had them. Everybody had them. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. And
less than a year ago, anytime I bought 22 long rifle, mark me down as one of those crazies or something, but I never really bought anything less than a case. And I'm not talking a brick of 500. I'm talking a case of bricks. So I would buy 5,000 at a time.
5,000 rounds, yeah. 10 bricks is the case.
Well, be glad you did.
Oh, absolutely. And I wish I would have shot a little bit less of it. But back then, I would buy a brick, and there would still be plenty to buy. I would buy an entire case, and there would still be plenty to buy. At one time, I bought 2 cases, and there was still plenty to buy. And now, there's just none.
That is amazing.
I mean, there's ammunition with the private sellers and the private retailers, like the guys at the gun shows, but not at the big box stores, not at the retail level for the consumer.
Well, I'm just glad that when I listen to the news, they tell me how much better things are getting and how much we've rounded the corner, things are going to be getting better, and blah 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 blah. It's just when I get in my car and I drive out into the real world. It's very hard for me to see that. I mean, I look. I just don't see it. So I guess I'm just not smart enough to see what's going on because it sure don't look like that to me.
But you're not the only one seeing things that just don't make any sense.
No.
And maybe, you know, we have Feinstein pulling her noise again. She wrote a letter to the Department of Justice and to the President asking for a re-examination of the 1968 gun laws. So she's pushing for another round of the gun paranoia, hysteria, the firearms restrictions.
They're not gonna drop that. That's like a dog with a bone, man. They're not gonna
absolutely. No, that's the holy grail for them. And
well, you know, there is a cure for that, but nobody wants to hear about it.
Well, yeah, everybody knows the cure, and there's a lot of people with the cure that can provide the cure. That's our only saving grace in this country.
Amen, brother. That's the bottom line there, buddy. That's our saving grace.
Well, Joseph Stalin said that he didn't.
One thing that I did find made me happy was that Connecticut stuff. The guys that didn't go down and register their firearms and were to become felons because that they didn't. Something like 30% of them, they said, were law enforcement officers. But, you know, why would a law enforcement officer have to do that? But 30% of them were law enforcement officers that didn't do it.
Well, so nothing makes a law enforcement officer any more than a regular citizen.
Well, you know, but come on, man. You really believe that?
Yeah, really.
Come on, man. Come on. Get a grip, Michael. You're drifting.
Really? I'm in fantasy land.
This latest murder, Michael, I hate to bring it up, but this latest murder is just sickening. I don't want to watch that video again, but that was pure out and out murder by the police.
That televised. That was caught on cam. Murder.
That was straight up murder. Yeah, I agree.
Straight up murder.
You know what? We're out of time, guys. We got about 30 seconds here. I'd like to thank Jules and UCY. Thank you, Hal, for coming on with us.
Thanks,
Michael. I'll give you the last word here.
Thanks, Dan. Lots of love out there to everybody. Thank you, UCY.TV. Thank you, Jules. Everybody stick around. Primer Time. Prepper Chicks After Dark is next. Thanks for listening to Primer Time, guys. We'll catch you again next week.
Shout out to Nick, too, by the way, there.
Stay safe, my brother. Nick.